We're talking about aliens and spacecrafts and some other things you might not know about what goes on behind the closed gates of Area 51. Starting us off today, we have a mission documented to the public by none other than Bob Lazar. You might have heard of him before. The mission took place in the 1980s and involved the reverse engineering of an extraterrestrial spacecraft fueled by an element that was supposedly undiscovered at the time and wouldn't be openly discovered until 2003 when a team of Russian and American scientists were able to synthesize it. The element was element 115, also known as moscovium. It's super heavy and highly radioactive and apparently out of this world, much like the spaceship Lazar claims to have worked on while working as an engineer on the base. He said that the spaceship had been collected by the agency along with 8 others. It was taken apart piece by piece and then replicated by the Area 51 team. The engineering mission was a success, and the homemade alien spacecraft took its first flight right in front of Bob Lazar's eyes. He claimed that it was nothing like anything he had ever seen before. It did not need any form of acceleration prior to takeoff, but rather the vessel lifted directly into the air and had the ability to fly at unseen speeds. Next up, we have the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Mission. That's a mouthful. A secret mission that operated out of the base with the purpose of identifying airborne threats to American land and its people, whether the threats be out of this world or not. I guess it makes sense that this was a classified mission. I mean, who really wants either a threat or target to know that they've got eyes on them? Since the operation began, it's become declassified, but it remains highly unpublicized, most likely due to censoring, along with the fact that there's really not much we know about it other than the fact that that's the name of it, and that's pretty much it. Sources have come forward, however, insisting that the program, which operated for 5 years between 2007 and 2012, with a budget of $22 million, was created for something much larger than international threats, claiming that the majority of the budget was dedicated to identifying and capturing intergalactic ones instead. Which of course brings us to the Roswell cover-up and others like it, aka the ongoing mission of the base to keep Americans and the rest of the world in the dark about what's really going on in our skies, our atmosphere, and our galaxy. The Roswell Incident follows an aircraft that crash landed in the field of a farmer in New Mexico. When Area 51 got news of the incident, they rushed to collect all the pieces and cover up all traces of the wreck. They claimed it was a weather balloon but never released any proof, and on top of that, what they collected from the farmer's property was sent to multiple other bases for a more in-depth analysis. If it was actually a weather balloon, I really don't see why that would be necessary. Of course, this isn't the only possible UFO cover-up known to date. Multiple sightings of UFOs have been reported and subsequently debunked, quote unquote, by officials at Area 51, but they rarely provide any information beyond a statement saying, "It's not what you think it is." Well, I don't think I believe them. Next up, we have hazardous waste disposal and the possible underground testing that took place in, on, around, or under Groom Lake, also known as Papoose Lake. That's a fun one to say, papoose. On January 30th of 1996, US President Bill Clinton signed a presidential declaration exempting the Air Force operations near the lake from having to comply with federal, state, interstate, or local hazardous or solid waste laws based on the grounds that it might require the disclosure of classified information. Wild! As you can imagine, this was terrible for locals in the area. I mean, the lake became illegal hazardous waste dumping ground. A lawsuit was filed alleging that the base had gone against the Conservation and Recovery Act in the area, but have no fear. In September of 2003, US President George W. Bush reiterated the fact that the military base was well within their rights to continue their lawless and potentially harmful waste disposal free of charge and without interference from the law. In the spring of 1997, 1 year after the allowance was originally granted, a man named Jerry Freeman somehow snuck his way onto the base and became the first civilian to see the lake after the hazardous disposals had begun. He described it as dried up and vibrating from the center with like a pulsing light, which led him to theorize that secret government experiments might possibly be taking place underneath or around the lake as well. Next up, we've got Mission Totally Spies. Not really, but it was totally a mission that involved a spy plane, more specifically the Lockheed U-2 U-2 Spy Plane, a United States aircraft that in August of 1955 had the ability to fly up to 70,000 feet high at 500 miles per hour. That's super advanced for the time. The reason that the plane was engineered, built, and tested on the base was because Area 51 is massive, which allowed the process of inventing, testing, and deploying the plane to take place virtually undetected. Well, kinda. I mean, the Soviets didn't see it, so that was a win for sure. Some locals did, and when they first saw the plane, they actually believed it to be some kind of alien spacecraft, which may lend a reason as to why the base became so intermingled with extraterrestrial folklore. For a while, the government let this line of thinking slide, but eventually it revealed that what had been seen in the skies around Area 51 was in fact an advanced piece of espionage technology, or so they say. Okay, another great use for a massive secret base. Probably nuclear testing, right? Yeah, I think so. Do you think so? Because the fellows over at Area 51 definitely thought so. The base became a nuclear testing facility during the 1950s after the US, along with Canada and the United Kingdom, created the first nuclear weapon, aka the Manhattan Project. The base was used to test the severity and the risk level of the weapon, as well as its impact on environmental factors, along with environmental restoration techniques. A hazardous materials spill center was also built on the base, but I think we all know exactly how the majority of the hazardous waste was handled. Papoose. A crap ton of fission-type nuclear devices were detonated in the area, as well as dirty bombs, which are radioactive dispersal devices that combine radioactive material with conventional explosives. This led to a permanent change in the area's landscape, and to this day, the soils of the Nevada test site remain contaminated with radioactive materials. We are all aware that censorship is rampant in this day and age, but it's really nothing new, as highlighted by the publishing and quick removal of a photograph showcasing the base. The image was taken in 1998 by a Russian spy satellite. I'm not sure if they knew at the time that they had just struck American gold, but it seems as though in 2000 they came to realize exactly what they had achieved. The first ever photograph taken of Area 51, and from an aerial point of view no less, was released to the public. It was posted on a website called terraserver.com, which charged viewers around $7 to see the image. And it was actually totally legal, because in 1992 the Open Skies Treaty dictated that all 24 signatory nations, meaning all 24 nations who signed the treaty, had permission to photograph and publish each other's territories. What's strange though, is that shortly after the release of the photograph, the website was hacked and the photo disappeared. A website that was working just fine without any issues for years prior. After the image was released, the Pentagon did, however, finally acknowledge the fact that they did in fact have a large military base operating in Nevada, but provided no information regarding said operations. While the photo was removed back then, it's now back on the internet and available today. Speaking of the Pentagon, it seems as though in 2020 the public finally got their wish when the Pentagon finally declassified a number of videos and photographs that we were, all well aware that they had. I'm talking UFOs, baby. The Pentagon released the photos and videos on their official website, showcasing a variety of unidentified flying objects and aerial phenomena. Along with this, the FBI also declassified 16 documents outlining their thoughts and findings on the matter, although a lot of the information in the documents has been redacted. So the truth is out there. The government has admitted to having a secret base and to having been actively tracking UFO and UAP activities. But here is the thing. Are they feeding us this information because they really truly have decided to be transparent in their quest to uncover the secrets of the universe? Or are they feeding us to keep our mouths shut? So apparently before all the nukes and aliens and hazardous waste and spy planes and secrets, Area 51 was nothing more than a humble testing and training facility for the pilots of the U-2 aircraft. Apparently. Its official government name was, and actually still is, the Nevada Test and Training Range, a unit of Neal's Air Force Base. Doesn't really have the same ring to it though, if you ask me. Other nicknames for the base have been Paradise Ranch, The Ranch, Waterdown, and Dreamland, probably because they're dreaming if they think we don't know that they're holding on to aliens. Anyways, in November of 1959, about 4.5 years after the base was established, a radar testing facility became active. And as always with Area 51, 51, while there is not much information out there as to what the radars are being used for, it has been speculated that their main purpose was to track the detectability of the U-2 aircrafts. Seems pretty obvious, but I feel like it's kind of weird that they didn't just come out and say that after the purpose of the U-2 spy craft was revealed. But I think I've given up on trying to figure out why they release the things they do and don't the things they don't. Anyways, finally on our list today we have the discovery of aliens and the subsequent experimentation on said aliens and their extraterrestrial modes of transportation. Now, in the beginning we already touched on the fact that the military personnel at Area 51 were allegedly able to reconstruct an alien spacecraft using reverse engineering. But just like how when there's smoke, there's fire, when there's an alien spacecraft, there must be an alien. Many members of the public believe that not only have the government found and taken into custody the ships of aliens, but the actual aliens themselves. Whether or not they are thin green men with oval heads and bulging eyes is still up for debate. Maybe we should get a petition going in the comments and see if the government will finally comply with the Freedom of Information Act. Or maybe they already have and they don't actually have to tell us everything. Who knows? I'm a YouTuber, not a lawyer. Alright you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you have anything you would like to add, you know what to do. I've been your host, Hannah Thompson, and I will see you in our next video.